Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. My name's Alani and I see I have some new YouTube friends here, so thank you for subscribing. And to my older subscribers, I see you and I appreciate you. This first rock display is the easiest. The only thing you really have to do is remove the price stickers, which I used Goo Gone to remove them, but you can use rubbing alcohol or hot water or soap. And after removing all of that, then I just glued them to the middle of the vases with E6000 and they fit perfectly, so I didn't really have to do much. Just hold them down for a few seconds and they were done. So let's just all ignore how silly this looks. I wanted to use my E6000, but the top had became clogged, so I had to poke a hole at the bottom, but it still works. I have been collecting rocks since I was little. Some of them I found and others were gifted to me. This is just some of the collection. I've always kept my rocks in a bucket or just recently this big shadow box, and my brother told me to do a DIY using them, so I chose to do 3 different rock displays. So thank you, Sam. I used all the smaller rocks to fill up the vases. You could use any size or just one color of rock if you wanted it to look more uniform, but I liked the variety of all the colors together, so that's what I did. After I had all the rocks where I wanted them, I put in my tea lights and I lit the candles. This next display was the hardest and most time consuming, but it was my favorite. I painted one wooden pole white, and this will be used to hold up all of our rocks. I lined up my rocks and crystals in the order that I wanted them to be in. Just ignore the bottom one, I'm not going to use that one. I cut my first piece of jewelry wire about 2.5 feet long. You don't need that much. I just rather be safe than sorry, so I got a longer amount, but at the end you see that I cut off a good amount of it as well. So if you want to, you can get a smaller piece. I wrapped the top piece of wire around the pole, and then I wrapped my first rock, seeing how far away I want it to hang. And wrapping that, I just wrapped it around once and went through the back, like looping it. And then it was really easy just to stay in place because this wire really holds it. This wire does move around a lot. It tries to unravel itself, so I had to use painter's tape to hold it down. Then I glued the back of the rock with the wire and held that down with some more painter's tape. I then did the process 2 more times, so I had a total of 3 wires hanging down. First, I loop it around the top of the pole, kind of twisting it. Then I pull it down and I see where I want my first rock to go, wrap it around, loop it under, and then I hold it down with painter's tape and glue the backing. Although the wire is really thin, it is really strong, so don't be afraid to pull on it, tug on it, and just make sure it stays in place and maneuver it the way you want it to. After looping my last wire around the pole, I moved the pole out of the way because I felt like it was just in the way and it kept moving it around. And then I just held everything down with painter's tape and glued it all together and just repeated the process until I finished it. Here are the rocks, all completely dried. I flipped them over to show you guys the backing of them. E6000 dries completely clear. I did use a different glue for the purple rock and it just had white as the background and I did not like that, so I ended up going back to my E6000 for the last 3. After I had wrapped all of the wire around the pole, I used a ruler to make sure everything was evenly spaced and then I glued it down. Unlike hot glue or super glue, this glue takes a while to dry, so you would still have time to maneuver it to make sure everything's in the spot you want it to be in. After everything had dried, I cut one last piece of wire about 2 feet long and tied both ends around the pole to use as a hanger. I twisted both sides on the ends of the pole as tightly as I could. I even used my wire cutters, the pliers part, to tighten it even more, and then I glued that in place. After everything had completely dried, I used my wire cutters to cut off all the excess pieces of wire. This was super satisfying because the wires just kept going up and poking me, and I was so happy to get rid of them. So I know the back of the pole doesn't look too pretty, but no one's gonna see it, so I'm not really worried about it. But I did want to mention that the glue acts as sort of like a bumper, so it softens the back of the wires and everything, so when you hang it on the wall, it's not gonna scratch up your walls. For the last rock display, I found these like money box, shadow box things at the Dollar Tree, and I'm not really worried about the top piece because none of the rocks are going to fall out of it, and I just thought it would be the easiest and pretty classic to do. After I took everything apart, I did save the backing piece because we're going to use that later, and I just put everything to the side and used nail polish remover to remove all of the writing on the inside of the back of the glass. Removing the words was surprisingly easy. You could have used anything to scratch them off, but I decided to go the more gentler route and use nail polish remover. I used painter's tape on both sides of the glass, just covering them completely to make sure that no spray paint got on the glass. If some does get on the glass, it's really easy to scratch off with an X-Acto knife, or if you want to remove it with alcohol, that's fine too. I had to do 4 to 5 coats of spray paint on the shadow box. For some reason, it kept eating up the paint, but it turned out fine, so I'm happy with it. To fill the shadow box, I used smaller and medium-sized rocks. Here I am just Tetrising everything to make sure it fits perfectly. If you were good at Tetris and you played it as a kid, here is your time to shine because I am terrible at it, so I'm really trying hard to make everything fit. That's why this is sped up because it took a lot longer than I expected, but it came out beautiful, and like I said, if you're good at Tetris, this should be a breeze for you. After I finally got everything done, I put the backing in place and it was done. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe if you're not already, and if you do recreate this, please tag me because I would love to see any recreations you guys make, and I really appreciate you guys more than you know. I will see you guys next time.